Alright everybody, welcome to part 4 of my radio install video for my 2002 Chevy Astro. So let me show you what I've done so far. Last thing we did was cut the trim to fit the new double din kit. Let me show you some things that have happened since then. Alright. So this is the stereo that I'm going to be putting in here. This Boss stereo, BE7ACP. You can see I've already put the slides from the kit in this. So this just slides right in to the dash. Notice that on the front of this stereo there is this piece of trim. Okay. So once I installed this piece of trim onto the van, I discovered that there was a lip around the inside of this piece of trim that was making contact with this. Because of that lip, it was sitting, the radio was sitting really far back in there, about like that. I didn't like that. I wanted it to be more flush with, to make it look more like it was, original equipment, and actually wanted it to kind of, the radio to kind of stick out past the bottom of the trim a little bit. And so in order to do that, I had to go in with my rotary cutter and cut that lip off all the way around the trim. Well, then that made it so that the front of this trim kind of bowed out a little bit whenever I clipped it into place. And so to remedy that, I took a hot glue gun and ran a bead of hot glue across the top and across the bottom and pressed this into place and held it so that it would sit tight up against this piece of trim. So this is now a somewhat permanent attachment to my dash trim. If I wanted to pull it off, I could. This hot glue would just peel off if I wanted to get it off of there. I might break this in the process and have to order another trim piece, but I like the way that this turned out a lot better than the way it was going to look. And so I guess I did a little tinkering with it to get the look that I wanted to get. Alright, so let me show you what else I've done here. This stereo has a reverse wire that in a newer vehicle would come from the car's computer to tell the radio that the vehicle's been put into reverse. On some of the newer vehicles that don't have touch screens, the instrument or the radio display would dim when you put it into reverse, or with the ones that have backup cameras, that's how the stereo knows to switch over to the camera input. Well, of course, this van was manufactured before any of that stuff came into being, and so I had to basically come up with a reverse wire. And the way that I did this is by finding where in the wiring harness of the van the reverse light circuit is. And so I'm going to show you where that is. It's kind of a pain to get to, but if you look up there, right here, you can see a piece of black tape. That light green wire right there is it's up here next to this gray relay box. Anyway, this light green wire is the reverse light circuit, positive circuit. So there's 12 volts that goes through that wire whenever you put the vehicle into reverse. And so I just skinned off a section of that wire and soldered this green wire into it and then wrapped that in tape. So now I have 12 volts that's going to, see, I just routed it up through here, and it's going to go to the wiring harness for the stereo. There is a wire coming off of the stereo's wiring harness that will be attached to. Okay, the other thing that I went ahead and did is I went ahead and ran my video cable to the back of the van for my reverse camera, my rear camera, and you can see that right here. I just came down, see it comes down the side right here and in under the carpet, and I just ran it right under the edge of the trim all the way to the back of the van. Take you back here and show you. It just comes all the way back here, and it actually, I have it come out right here. And so what my plan is, I haven't quite decided exactly how I'm going to mount this camera. I'm probably going to pull this screw out, do away with this license plate bracket, and then I'm going to take a screw, a metal screw, and I'm probably going to attach this camera right here on the bottom of the bumper. It'll be right over my hitch. I've checked it. There will be clearance for me to still use my hitch, but it'll actually be centered, and I think that'll be a good place for it to be right there. And so these wires will come up, that's on the back of this camera, they're going to come up behind the bumper, and I'm going to see if I can just route them into the van right through here. I know that when the wiring, the trailer harness on this van is actually in the jack stowage area, and it's just like a 6-foot long harness with a trailer fitting, a fitting on the end to connect to your trailer lights. And so in the past, whenever I've used it, I've just pulled it kind of right here, and it comes out the crack between these back doors. You can kind of see there's a crack that runs right through here, and so that's where I'm going to route that wire. And so the wire will go right under this rubber piece here, and it'll go right here, and then right down behind the bumper cover right here. And so it will be visible when you open the back doors, but I don't really care about that. That's not a problem for me, and it should not be a problem with the doors. Okay, so that's what I've done. I am now ready to start plugging things in and getting this thing going. So let's get after it. So I have everything hooked up now that needs to be hooked up. This goes to the vehicle's existing harness. Just push that back kind of out of the way. This goes to the back of the radio. We have a front camera input and a rear camera input. So that's my rear camera input. These are my 2 USB hookups. All right, and I told you, I'm going to tell you about this. I'm not actually going to show you. I'm not going to show me doing it, right? I'm just going to show you what I'm doing. and you can do however you want. It's different, you know, it's up to you. This is this goes below the heater switch over here. You got the rear air, rear heat, and then this was just a dummy panel. What I'm going to do is I'm going to cut out the middle of this and install this right in the middle of it, so that it'll look like it came from the factory that way. So so you'll know what I'm doing. And so this will go right here. It'll route right through here. So I'm going to go ahead and route it like this for now, and then I'm going to be taking it out later to because I'll have to take all this apart in order to fix that. So it's really just a matter of remembering one of these is going to be your CarPlay, and I'm going to make it the top one, and then the bottom one is going to be just for charging. So here's my CarPlay one. So I'll plug this one into the one that says CarPlay. Plug the other one into the other one. All right. Shove this back down in there a little bit. All right, now plug my camera in to the rear camera input. And now, oh, I'm forgetting the antenna. Let me get the antenna adapter. Here's the antenna adapter. Here's the original antenna. It just plugs in there. This plugs into the back of the stereo. So, and now I just plug the wiring harness. What do we do? Right here. Okay. So everything is plugged in now. Now the good thing about this radio is it's really shallow, so there's plenty of room back here in the dash for all these cables. Just slide it back in, snap into place, and let's see if it works. All right, let's crank it up and see what happens. Try the tuner. Tell you, it's got a very quick interface. But it's not detecting anything plugged into the USB so far. Now it could be that I have a bad lightning cable here. There we go. It found it then. Just waiting for the CarPlay to... Well, there it is. You see it works. For some reason, CarPlay is not working. I don't know why. We'll try a different cable. See, it says unsupported USB device, which that doesn't make sense. It's like it shows up for a second and then it disappears. That's really strange. For some reason, it's not showing up. Anyway, I'll play with that and I'll figure it out. So at this point, it's just a matter of getting everything kind of put back together. So I know you don't care about watching all of that. So I'm going to bring you back in and show you the finished product. All right, so see you in a little bit. Okay, everybody, this is the finished product. So you can see the trim is all back on, and the radio is installed. And I want you to notice here, that is what this ended up looking like. So that looks like it came from the factory that way. And this is Apple CarPlay working. And there's actually, on this radio, there is an app. Like, it took me forever to figure out how to get back to the main radio menu and get out of CarPlay. Well, on this radio, there's an app called the Boss Elite Radio app. It automatically loads on there whenever you open it up in CarPlay the first time. When I click on that or tap on it, it takes me back to the main radio menu. So if you get this stereo, hopefully that'll save you a little searching to try to figure out how to get back to this main menu. So there's my Apple CarPlay. All right, I finally got it working. Let me tell you what happened with this. So I don't know if the phone had to maybe download some drivers or something for this radio. When I first plugged it up, it wouldn't detect it at all. Then I went through a stretch where it would detect the phone, but the radio would give me an error that said it was an unsupported USB device. And so one of the things I tried is I took this out of the mix and plugged the phone directly into the USB wires on the back of the radio. And for some reason that seemed to speed the process up, and it actually started working. And but it was really buggy to begin with. Like, it would work for a little while and then CarPlay would just drop its connection, and I would have to unplug the phone and plug it back in. And that went on for a couple of days, as a matter of fact, that it was just really buggy in the way that it would work. And again, I don't know if the phone is downloading some drivers or something like that in the background so that it can work with this specific stereo. I'm not sure how all of that Apple stuff works, but now it is working seamlessly, and I was able to put my extension with the plug back into the mix, and it's working just fine. Now let me show you what I ended up doing with the rear camera. You can see it is installed, and I told you that I was going to take the license plate adapter that was on the back side of this off, but I actually ended up using it, and I actually attached the license plate adapter to the bottom of my bumper. So this actually made the camera stick out a little bit past the bumper. You can see that. That just gets it further out of the way of my receiver hitch, and it seems to be giving me a really good view of the rear of the vehicle. And I told you originally that I was going to route the cables for all of this right through here, and I ended up not doing that because I discovered that right over here around my rear air evaporator core, there was a panel in the floor that I could just drill a hole through, and then that all of my wires were coming through here anyway in this area, and so I was able to go right out of the van there, and everything's routed under the van from that point. So I drilled that hole out, spray painted that hole really good so that it wouldn't rust out, and it's a really small hole. And there's a couple of other holes there actually already that were there from the factory, but anyway, so that is routed underneath the vehicle, no wires show. I'm really happy with how that turned out. And so let me show you what this looks like now when you put it into reverse. See how that camera comes on automatically? All right, now let me show you something else here that I like, because I wanted to be able, especially like if I'm hauling something, pulling a trailer or something like that, I wanted the ability to be able to bring my camera up, kind of check my load and stuff like that. So if I go here, back to the main menu, I can tap camera, and look at there. There you have it. I can see this going down the road if I want to. And here's a little tip. If you want to do that, I think I pointed it out in the wire when I was building the wiring harness. I pointed out to you that on the back of this stereo in the wiring harness, there is a 12-volt power cable for the camera. My Pioneer system did not have that, and so I had to get my 12-volt power for the camera from somewhere else. But this came out of the back of the radio, and it supplies it to the camera. There's a little red wire that comes off of the video cable, so I just tied that in to my wiring harness, and then the other end of that red wire I tied into my camera's power adapter at the back of the van. And that power adapter at the back of the van also needed a negative or a ground, and so I tied into, I have a cigarette lighter in the back of my van, and so I just tied the ground in with the ground of that cigarette lighter, and so that is working great now. So there you have it. You can see it. I think it looks like it came from the factory like this. I mean, it looks really good to me. I am super happy with it. The sound on this radio is great. I think it has a 340 watt internal amplifier built into it, which is perfect for this van. It actually sounds better than the factory radio that came in it. And so I have been extremely happy with this setup. So, hey, I encourage you to do it. It's not that hard of a project. Maybe a little time consuming, but anybody with a few skills could make this happen. So get after it. Bring your old Astro into the 21st century. All right, hope you enjoyed this little series, and I hope you found it to be informative and maybe even a little entertaining. And until next time, I'm Wayne from T Freak Adventures. See ya.